This is Jimmy Burns from Malvern, Ohio, and you're listening to Barbecue Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh, should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
To the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things that are important to the world, the galaxy of barbecue and grilling. Originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rippey. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to jump in on the show this evening, here's how you do that.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the bbqcentralshow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. Coming up in about 12 to 13 minutes from now, it is the third Tuesday of the month. And you know what that means? We're going to be getting a visit from a Barbecue Hall of Famer, a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer, a cooking class instructor, the most prolific live fire cookbook author the world has ever seen, and regular Third Tuesday standing guest Steven Raichlen will rejoin us. Last month, we were talking to Steven about getting ready to go to Maryland to shoot Season 2 of Project Fire. We talked about the game plan. We talked about the special items that they were going to have in place. And now we will go recap. I actually saw some social media of Steven making the train trip, or maybe he planed it for a certain amount of time or drove it a certain amount of time and then ultimately ended up taking a train into Maryland. So we'll see how it all played out on the TV side of things with Steven Raichlen. Plus, we will talk about how to grill the perfect chicken breast, because sometimes that's hard for us to do. And we will also talk about the 6 or 7 dishes, if we even get to that many, items that you need to do on your barbecue or grill in September. We are now almost all the way through September, so if you haven't been keeping track, if you're not visiting his website, you're missing out, but we'll get you up to speed. Then we will talk to the first ever full-time barbecue editor in the country. He writes for Texas Monthly. You can find him at tmbbq.com. We'll be rejoined by Daniel Vaughn. Plenty of items to talk about with, how do I want to say that? Plenty of items to talk about Daniel with. That still sounds weird. Doesn't matter. A lot of topics to discuss with Daniel. Not the least of which is something that is going down in the Austin, Texas area. That even in an age where meat does not necessarily have to mean coming from cows. They come from plants, plant-based meat products. This one might take it a little bit further down that road. So I don't know how surprised we will all be, especially if you've been keeping up with either Texas Monthly or just watching all the different barbecue publications. This is something that has the potential of blowing your very mind, so stay tuned for Daniel Vaughn 35 Past. Then we'll move to the second hour. The other third Tuesday of the month standing guest, of course, Robin Lindars from GrillGirl.com. As I had said in the newsletter release, I think there's a lot of showing perfection on social media. We want to take our perfect shots. Even if it's not perfect, there's plenty of ways to doctor up items to make them look even better than they turned out. But why not talk about the losses? Why not talk about the failures? Why not talk about the things that you have had trouble with so other people can learn and not go through the same learning processes that you have to go through? You'll tighten the learning curve, as it were. And tonight, we're going to talk about some pellet cooker maintenance. We will also be talking about how to do pizza on the pellet cooker with the pizza oven attachment. Both Robin and I have had issues. Mine's been more of a learning curve. Robin will be going from one Green Mountain grill to a newer model Green Mountain grill and a newer pizza oven insert. Some of those dynamics have changed, and we'll talk about that. And Robin has also had her own pizza challenges. So we're going to lay it all out on the line for you, tell you where our problems have been, and then hopefully if you have a similar setup, maybe you haven't had the same items of issue yet, or maybe you just haven't gotten into the cooking part of it yet, we're going to offer some help, some tips and tricks to prevent some heartache and sorrow and ruined food, whatever. So Robin Lindar's 14 past the second hour. And then we'll close it out with first-timer to the show, founder of Bloodsoe's Bar and Q in Compton, California. Kevin Bloodsoe joins me. He'll be a judge coming up this Friday along with Melissa Cookston on the Netflix show. American Barbecue Showdown, I think it's called. So we'll talk to Kevin about getting on that show. He's got a very deep barbecue backstory that, given the time frame of that segment, I don't think that we're going to be able to get into all of that. We might touch on it a little bit. I doubt it. But we'll talk a lot about the TV show. We'll talk about a lot of barbecue and TV in general, some things that he has coming up otherwise outside of the TV aspect this coming Friday. So looking forward to meeting and chatting it up with Kevin Bloodsoe from Bloodsoe's Bar and Q. There you go. That's how the show lines out. Don't forget, you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, not Facebook. Well, Facebook too, I guess, / BBQ Central Show on Facebook. You can also find a live video feed there. There's also one on YouTube. There's also one on twitch.tv / BBQ Central Show. So however you want to figure out how to watch me, go ahead and figure that out. I'm happy to have you. Let's start here this week. If you missed the show last Tuesday and haven't gotten to it yet on podcast, you've missed one of the all-time hoodwinks in show history. And it wasn't even planned. Like most things, when something happens organically, it yields the best results. And there was no greater proof than what happened at the top of the show last Tuesday. After I finished with the normal show intro and setup, I had a quick throwaway line about wishing Robin Lindars a happy birthday, which it was last Tuesday. And right at the end of the birthday wish, I said that she was turning 68 years old. Then I even played a laugh drop to make sure everyone knew it was a joke. Quickly moved on from there, never even gave it a second thought. In case you missed it, here's what that portion sounded like. First and foremost, as we get to some house cleaning, we want to wish a special happy birthday to third Tuesday of the month regular guest, founder of GrillGirl.com, Robin Lindars, who turned 68 today. Congratulations, Robin. Hope you have a great birthday. All right, so you hear the laugh track. You hear me say 68. Maybe I even chuckle a little bit. Then we got into the meathead segment, and he stopped me before we got into any of the topics to reveal to me and the audience that he was completely astounded and shocked and or otherwise in disbelief that Robin had just turned 68. 68! Here's how that sounded.
You said something in the warm-up.
Yeah.
Robin is 68?
Yes, Robin is 68. I'm laughing at him.
All right, now I got to tread lightly here. I got to tread real lightly here in the Me Too era.
Yes.
But
yeah, careful.
Robin just does not look 68.
Well, believe it or not, she
I would
is
put
as
her
68 as they
closer to
come.
45.
No, Robin is 68 years old. Believe it. Take it to the bank. Unbelievable. So let me ask you something. Is there anyone out there last Tuesday that heard this live or caught it during the weekend podcast that thought I was for real for 1 second? Did any of you think that Robin turned 68 years old? Well, I know one of you did, and that person's name is Meathead, and I couldn't believe it. He never even questioned it. And as you heard in the clip, when I realized he was totally invested in that sham of a story, I directed him to talking about Michigan fruit, or cold weather climate fruit, so we could let that moment live forever in infamy, let's say. Yes. We will set the record straight with Robin next hour, believe it. But what a guess. If I can ever top that hoodwink, I'll be amazed. But you know we're going to try. Steven Raichlen is in the green room, and we'll come back to chat with him. I'll talk to you quickly about Pits and Spits. Since 1983, Pits and Spits has been handcrafting smokers and grills right there in Houston, Texas, establishing itself as one of the premier brands in high-quality offset smokers and pellet cookers. They've set themselves apart by using heavy 7 and 10-gauge steel in every cooker, fully welded construction that you can feel when you use the unit, and 304 stainless roll-top lids and front shelves on every single smoker. So why does it matter? Well, by using higher quality materials, Pits and Spits smokers reach and maintain temperatures, allowing you to worry about the meat more than the heat. Providing a fully welded smoker, you don't have to worry about grease and smoke leaking out of the barrel, or about that grill rattling apart as you move it through the yard. You know you're going to do that. Also, with 304 stainless, you have an heirloom quality product that'll be around for generations. When some companies are focusing on being a low-cost provider, Pits and Spits focuses on craftsmanship and quality materials. Are there cheaper ways to make this product? Sure. But they don't like tack welds, cheap stainless, electronics that you can't trust. Having in-house manufacturing gives them complete control of the design and standards. That's not something you'll find in products brought in from overseas. Their steel suppliers supply materials to be used in some of the harshest environments around, so they will perform wherever you are, and their controllers are made right here in the USA. They have unimpeded transparency into the program. Pits and Spits has a dealer network across the country. If there isn't one close to you, give them a call to shop, 844-650-6250, whether you're a backyard grill master looking to cook steaks for the family, or a competition barbecuer looking to do 50 racks of ribs. Pits and Spits is a product for you. You can check out all the products at pitsandspits.com, all spelled out, or you can see their pits in the wild across the social media handle at Pits and Spits. All right. Once again, Robin, not 68. We will address that next hour, right around this time. And we will load in Steven Raichlen right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, seasonings, barbecue sauces, grilling oils. All of Butcher Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit as well as backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood and visit butcherbbq.com to stock up now. Always trust your butcher. Barbecue mud available for sale. Central Lights, third Tuesday of the month. You know what that means. A time to visit with an icon in the industry, a host of TV shows. The creator of the very popular Barbecue University, author of the most incredible barbecue and grilling cookbooks out there ever, and a third Tuesday of the month regular guest. So we race to the hotline and welcome back Steven Raichlen. Hey, Steven.
How you doing?
I am fabulous, Steven, and you look like you are perhaps getting ready for a sauna.
I'm in a cabin at a beautiful retreat called Pearlstone in Reisterstown, Maryland, where I've been taping the next season of Project Fire. And we are a locked, it's a lock set. We all had 1 million COVID tests coming into this. Nobody comes in, nobody goes out. We've been together for 12 days. Tomorrow's our 13th day. We're going to wrap the show on Thursday. So it's been a pretty amazing experience.
So when we talked last month, we were doing a little bit of a setup in regards to things that you had to put in place that you had never had to take into account when you were shooting a TV show. So as you are rounding out through the shooting period, as you said, you'll be wrapping Thursday. How has it gone so far? How have things compared to previous shoots? And then how have the things that have differed really differed?
Well, first of all, it's growing great. I think it's the best shoot we've ever done. Wow. We have a terrific team. We've, many of us have been working together for 12, 13 years. We get together once a year, so it's like a big family reunion. Only this time it's a socially distanced family reunion, and our meals are all at 8-foot-long tables. Every person, you sit at the ends of the tables. I came up from Miami to Baltimore by train because our COVID advisor, and that's a new, we have cameramen, we have sound guys, we have field chefs. Now we have a COVID officer on the set to make sure everybody's safe. So he thought that my taking a train 24 hours would be safer than flying. And it was interesting and a very zen experience. Everybody, and you'll see behind the scenes, because, in my shows, it's very important that we do the behind the scenes shows. And you'll see everybody's in a mask. Only person on the set that doesn't have to wear a mask is me. And that's when I'm on the set, talking. What else has been strange about the year?
Stevie, can I interrupt just for 1 second?
Yeah.
I think when I was 8 or 9, I once took an Amtrak train from Albany, New York to somewhere around Hornell, New York, and that was the only time I had ever been on a train. I would assume, given the extensive amount of travel, you have much more rail experience than perhaps the normal folk would. So, what is a train ride for you going from Miami to Maryland like? Obviously, plane would be much quicker, but do you find any difference of joy in taking the scenic route, as it were, or is it just a big kind of hey, let's do it for safety, and oh, by the way, this is tedious and terrible and not very fun?
It was not tedious. It was not terrible. Typical of me, whenever I go away, I have 8 million things to finish before I go. So the new book, I was proofreading the galleys for the new book. So that probably took me a good 10 hours into the trip. I had a little sleeper compartment, so I was totally sealed off. My wife had packed me some great food to eat. And then the sleeper car, your bed comes down from the ceiling for that. And that was sort of like being in the top tier of a bunk bed. So it was kind of cool. It was sort of like camping on the train. I enjoyed it. And then pulling into Baltimore, I grew up in Baltimore. So this show really has a lot of emotional nostalgia for me. And I have pulled into that train station, I cannot tell you how many times in my life. So, so it was cool. I'm the kind of guy, I love new experiences, good, bad, whatever they are. It's just, and it was a good experience.
You had mentioned on the set that you are having this family reunion. Is it a scaled back family reunion? Do you have as many people as you normally would, or did that have to get cut back somewhat?
No, we have the full crew. It's a crew of 20. We've got 3 cameramen, we've got a sound guy, we've got the stylist and the stylist assistant, we've got the chef and the chef's assistant, we've got gaffers, lighting guys, COVID officer, directors, producers. But it's a very congenial set. There's never a raised word, it's always a please and thank you. And we've done some really cool stuff this year. And one thing that I am loving is it's a new feature on the show called the Mystery Box. And so I come up to the set, and there's a giant wooden box on the set. I don't know what's in it. I lift it up, and then I have to create a recipe on the spot, obviously using the grills in keeping with the theme of the show. And I have found that that's been my favorite part of the show this year. I really love it.
Steven Raichlen joining us here on the show, talking about the second season of Project Fire as they're getting ready.
Actually, it's the third season, believe it or not.
That's right. And that's getting ready to wrap shooting here Thursday. So this is going to be like a next spring release, next grilling season release?
Yeah, April 1st release.
All right. And we're not kidding about
that. And, believe it or not, it takes 2 weeks to shoot 13 episodes. And then it will take roughly 2 weeks of editing to produce each episode. So, I mean, it's a very long, involved process. You watch it on TV, you don't realize how much work goes into it.
I was going to say, do you have any idea how many hours of straight raw footage that you will have shot to what will end up being a nicely packaged, 13 shows?
Well, I'll give you an example. Today, we arrived on the set at 7. We were shooting by, let's say, 8:15. We struck at about 7:15 tonight with an hour off for lunch, and the rest of that was shooting time. But it wasn't all shooting time. I mean, there's setup time, there's, they're doing stand-ups times, but there's a lot of footage.
What's the favorite thing that has happened so far this week or over the last 2 weeks that you hadn't accounted for or hadn't planned on happening?
Well, the mystery boxes, that's and I don't want to spoil the surprise for people, so I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I've done 5 of them so far, and each one, was a real surprise, and I love that energy. I mean, it's in a funny way, it's the way I cook at home. I don't cook from recipes at home. I see either what I bought what we went when we went shopping, or what's in the fridge, but this is like that on steroids. You open the box and there it is, and then they have a little pantry area where I can go take other ingredients to round out the dish, and it's very spontaneous and really fun.
So that seems like a lot of competition barbecue or live fire shows have taken a similar concept where it's, let's call it a chopped concept, for instance, where you open something, you have these secret ingredients, and then there's the pantry, as you reference as well, that the contestants can use. Are you regularly approached by different production houses saying, hey, we want to put together, or we're in the process of putting together some type of a live fire grilling competition? Would you like to take part?
I am, and I've also been approached by people that want to create brand new shows, and I always keep an open ear because I like to keep an open ear to everything. But I'm very happy at PBS, and I think during the lockdown, our kind of programming without commercials, without annoying advertisements and product placement and all, I think people really took comfort in that.
Anything else before we put a bow on the shooting that you would like to share or tease in order to keep our zest for the third season?
No, just watch for it on your local PBS station, and I hope everybody enjoys it.
All right, now, one of the things that I had seen on barbecuebible.com recently was a post on how to grill the perfect chicken breast. And, probably not much to your surprise, I'm not a big chicken breast griller. I do find that I just prefer chicken thighs more from a flavor standpoint. There's obviously a much bigger window of error should that factor in. But let's go ahead and talk about grilling a perfect chicken breast, because I think there might be a tendency to think that that's just something really easy to do, or perhaps worse, that it is going to be dry or a little flavorless no matter how well you cook it.
Does not have to be dry, does not have to be flavorless. I, like you, prefer the dark meat, but many people prefer the breast. I guess my favorite way for doing it is al matone, what the Italians call al matone, under a brick. And that is the chicken breast is marinated in olive oil, lemon juice, rosemary, sage, hot pepper flakes, salt and pepper. And then when you grill it, you place either a foil-wrapped brick over it, or lately I've been using salt slabs. But the idea is you press it into the grill grate, gives you killer grill marks for one. It compacts the meat, and it also keeps the meat from drying out. It's a very dramatic way to cook a chicken breast, and if you do it right, the breast comes out every bit as succulent as the leg would.
Are there any other tips as far as, in general, grilling a chicken breast that isn't going to dry out?
Well, a marinade is a big factor. Sometimes I cut a pocket in the side of the breast and stuff it. I might stuff it with cheese or ham and cheese, or sometimes an herb butter. So that's a way of getting moisture from the inside out. Basting is important, not overcooking it is important. Grilling on a plancha is another way to handle chicken breast. Plancha being that cast iron griddle that you put on your grill. And a lot of people are, I find I'm doing that style of cooking much more. That gives you a great surface sear, and you can add wood smoke, via the wood chunks on the coals.
Do you want to make sure that the chicken breast, let's say you're doing half a dozen or maybe up to a dozen, depending on what kind of a dinner that you're having, do you want to make sure that all these are similar in size, weight, and thickness to promote a even cook?
That is a big help. Yes, obviously. For me, I like to cook with organic chicken because I think it's raised more humanely and it eats a better diet, so it has a better flavor, and I think it's just a more humanity to the process. Basting is another. You could write a whole book. You could write a whole giant book on cooking chicken breasts.
Do I hear a Steven Raichlen chicken book in the pipe?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
But it would be an interesting project.
No doubt. Steven Raichlen joining us here on the show. BarbecueBible.com is his website. I had seen 7 recipes that you might want to grill or smoke this month here in September. So we're just starting the 3rd week here. So some folks might have some making up to do, but wanted to ask you about a couple of these. One of them was a smoked Bloody Mary, and I know through various conversations that we have had, especially maybe in the winter months or trending into the cooler months, you've been a little bit more akin to smoking, let's say, an old-fashioned or a Manhattan or something along these lines. But a Bloody Mary, I'm not, I don't drink anymore, but I was never a Bloody Mary fan. I had tried it on any number of occasions. So let's talk about Bloody Marys first and what you think makes a good one, and then what the smoke adds and how you would add smoke to that.
Great question. And by the way, I've rechristened the drink a Smoky Mary. So, you're talking basically a tomato juice base. The traditional spirit was vodka. Vodka has absolutely no flavor, so I have no use for it. Lately, I've been making my Bloody Marys with mezcal, which is a very smoky agave spirit from Mexico. Freshly grated horseradish is important. There should be some heat. Lemon juice, lime juice is important. In terms of smoking it, a couple of ways you can proceed. If you're making in a pitcher and you have a smoking gun, and I love the smoking gun, it's kind of a bong that fires hickory smoke instead of the other stuff, but you cover the mouth of the pitcher with saran wrap, place the hose of the smoking gun over it, fill the pitcher with smoke, let it infuse for 4 or 5 minutes, repeat 2 or 3 times, and you get it's absolutely terrific, delicious. Smoke. I've called smoke the umami of barbecue, but it really it makes everything you do on the grill, or many things you eat. It just makes it. It's like it takes the flavor into another dimension.
Would you say it's like salt as far as a flavor amplifier, or not necessarily?
Yeah,
comparison?
That's a good analogy. No, that's a good analogy, and it's also a flavor modifier. By the way, I assume many of your listeners are into mezcal, but if you're not, it's an amazing, amazing spirit. I actually traveled down to Oaxaca a few years ago when I was writing Project Smoke. I wanted to see how it was made, and it's virtually medieval. medieval distilling. In fact, there's a theory that, everybody said the Spanish brought the art of distilling to the New World, but one of the stills I saw consisted of earthenware bowls and bamboo tubes for the distilling, and it's very possible that the Aztecs had figured out how to distill long before the Spanish arrived.
So is there a familiar tequila flavor outside of the smokiness aspect that's added in there then?
Yeah, but, tequila is like light beer next to mezcal. It's very... And by the way, when you buy a mezcal, like Don Maguey is one, you don't want the one that has the worm in the bottle. That's pretty rot gut stuff. There's you can spend a lot of money on mezcals. This Del Maguey, they do single village mezcals, so each of theirs comes from an individual distillery. Each one has a different flavor.
Steven Raichlen joining us.
And
here.
How they make it? You know how they make it? They dig a giant fire pit, and they build an enormous fire in it, and then they toss they're called the piñas, the pineapples, the hearts of the cactus, into this fire pit after the wood has burned down. And then they bury it with earth and throw a tarp over it, and come back 5 days later. And so these cactus hearts have roasted until they're coal black, and at that point they are mashed, they're fermented, and then they're distilled. So you've got this amazing smoky flavor.
All right, well, that's where the smoky flavor comes from. So how much longer from that point does it take to put in a bottle and then get it out to retail? Does it have to age for a certain period of time, or is it pretty much ready to go after fermentation?
In general, it's pretty much ready to go after fermentation. There are some people who are experimenting with aging in whiskey barrels and sherry barrels and such. But in general, it's, the time-consuming part comes in roasting the piñas. And then once it's distilled, it's ready to roll.
All right, Steven, I have two more questions for you before I let you to go, and I appreciate the time as always. Would you rather your voice sound like Elmo or Kermit the Frog?
Kermit the Frog.
Of course. This is a Howard Stern-related question, who I know you're a fan of. Who's the better drummer, Neil Peart or John Bonham?
Oh boy, I sort of stopped paying attention to drummers with Ginger Baker, so I'm gonna plead the fifth on that.
All right, no doubt about it. You can find Steven Raichlen right here on this show, the third Tuesday of every month, and they are getting ready to wrap the third edition of Project Smoke, or the third season of Project
Fire.
I'm sorry, Project Fire. This coming Thursday.
Fire.
That's right.
That's right.
So Project Fire will be out April 1st next year, and we'll be looking for that. Steven, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on.
You always do a great job. Thanks, Greg. Bye-bye.
You got it. There he is, Steven Raichlen, right there. Wow. I said Project Smoke. I apologize. These are things that happen, right? I mean, you get a little excited. You got a Hall of Famer. The first show out was Project Smoke. You get told, no, he's a stickler for correctness now. I mean, don't be bringing the B game. You got to be bringing the A game for Steven, which I appreciate. My next guest, by the way, always bringing the A game too, so I better figure out my P's and Q's so I don't shove my foot in my mouth again. Before we get to Daniel Vaughn, I will talk to you quickly about the Barbecue Guru. Believing that outdoor cooking is easy and fun, because it can be easy and fun. How? Well, you can use the Barbecue Guru temperature control devices. If you have a kettle-style cooker, if you have a Weber Smoky Mountain or Bullet-style smoker, some of the bigger offsets can actually accommodate these as well. If you have any questions, you just go over to the website, bbqguru.com, or you can call them and ask all your questions at 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. Now, if you're in the market for a ceramic cooker, they make one. The Monolith is the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan. That means smarter control and greater freedom with automatic temperature control devices. Now, if you have a Guru controller already, and you buy a monolith, you don't need to buy an additional controller. You can just take the one that you have, hook it to the power draft fan built in, and away you go. If you want to upgrade to the newest technology, you have the DynaQ and the NanoQ, depending on what price you're looking to get into. So all you have to do is hit up the website, bbqguru.com, or call them with your questions, 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. We will be back with Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all of your pellet-driven cookers. So, you visit cookinpellets.com for more information. You can also purchase there and see what they have. You can also buy on Amazon.com if you would prefer. Whatever you like. Certainly up to you. My next guest is the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly magazine. You also see him on this show from time to time as we talk about the world of barbecue and more. We race to the hotline. And welcome back, friend of the show, Daniel Vaughn. Hey, Daniel.
How's it going?
I am doing fabulous. Appreciate you making time for the show this evening and looking forward to our conversation here. Before we start, let me start with you where I ended with Steven. Best rock and roll drummer, is it Neil Peart or John Bonham?
I don't know if I have a strong opinion about that. Let's go with Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl?
The Def Leppard guy.
Let's go with D. I mean, between the two, you don't have a favorite? I mean, these two probably widely considered to be the pinnacle of, rock and roll drumming.
Greg, I'm the barbecue snob. I'm not the drummer snob. I'm sorry.
All right. So what did you say the answer was? Oh, Dave Grohl. I mean, he is multi-talented. I mean, he loves barbecue.
Yeah. Oh, he loves barbecue.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? You're right. He is the best barbecue guy. Drummer, guitar, singer, kind of. But definitely a very I mean, you've met him, right? You've hung with him?
I haven't met him. No. I'm not cool enough to be hanging with him. No.
Oh, I figured.
But I do hear he hangs out at Memphis in May and some other barbecue competitions.
He watches Malcolm Reed religiously. I've heard him mention him in other podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's very popular.
And I mean, from some of the photos, it looks like he can cook too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a Lang, or maybe he's even added. I guess he's probably got multi-cooker syndrome at this point. So we both love Dave Grohl. We'll leave it at that.
I know what that feels like.
Yeah, of course. So last Thursday, you release a story about two Austin, Texas women who are hoping, or perhaps are even in the process of building or growing a brisket made in a laboratory. Now, 10 years ago...
Or as they say, cultivating.
Cultivating. Okay, I was trying to figure out what the right word. So cultivating a brisket. Now, 10 years ago, I think the world would have blown up or at least gotten thrown off its axis when we would talk about this. Now, with the mention of lab-grown anything that involves meat, however, given the rise of, let's say, Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger or non-meat meat options, doesn't seem that far out of bounds. So before we talk about this more in depth, how does this concept grab you as a Texas guy?
Well, it is a little strange to think about the idea of, even when I was talking with the founders of this company, I was using the term plant-based meat and then correcting myself. Like, it's meat-based meat.
Real meat.
It uses bovine cells. It is grown completely from bovine cells. It's just not grown inside the body of a cow. So they're engineering this scaffold system to build these cells, or to allow these cells to grow and replicate on this scaffolding system to create what they hope to. I mean, they hope to bring to the world the lab-based brisket. Now, my first question to them was, if you were designing meat from scratch, like the cut, I don't think I would choose as a brisket. We love it in barbecue, of course, but a lot of the reasons we love it in barbecue is because it is so difficult of a cut of meat to turn into something tender and delicious. So I was like, I would maybe want like a whole steer's worth of ribeyes.
Well, did they say why brisket? I mean, was it just to be a little bit more courageous, as it were? You know, when you and I get together, we're courageous, but or is it because it's a
That's
Texas thing, and we want to do
Yeah,
brisket?
they're Texans. This is it's an Austin, a company founded in Austin. It's a doctor from the University of Texas, and part of their argument was the fact that with this BioBQ company, that if they create a brisket, then they could pretty much engineer any other cut. Like if they could get the difficulty of the structure of a brisket with all the collagen and the fat and the layers and all that if they could build that, then they could build a fillet pretty easily.
Any idea how long it takes to well, I mean, there's so many other questions.
3 weeks.
3 weeks to grow how big? And is it a whole packer?
3 months.
3 months?
3 months. Yes.
How?
3 mons, which is they compared it to like the life of a cow, right? The gestation period of a cow, plus plus getting a calf up to about 18 months old to when they're slaughtered. So it's about a 27-month process for that to happen if you count that full gestation period. So from that comparison, it's quite a bit shorter. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The biggest hurdle is going to be overcoming just the fact that you've got two crowds, right? You've got you think you're designing this for the vegan vegetarian crowd. Are they going to be comfortable eating animal protein? And then for the carnivores out there, the folks who love to eat meat and are always looking for new and interesting ways or new and interesting cuts and needs and whatever, are they going to be open-minded enough to try something grown in a lab? So they are kind of in a tough spot, kind of in between those two crowds, I think.
All right, so let's wade through that murkiness for a second. For the vegetarians, it would seem like it would just be a flat rebuff. It's not plant-based, so it's not following their ideals or what they would normally eat. So since this is, bovine cells and it's going to be real-ass meat, that would seem to preclude them from jumping in on that on principle alone. Where I think the more interesting item is going to be is because we have seen, I guess, a wide acceptance of these plant-based meats. I don't know how successful they are, or perhaps they haven't seen as much success this year as they did last year, given the circumstances we're in, what have you. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with anything. But because we have seen those two companies especially dominate the market in varying ways, ground beef, patties, sausages, and the like, could there be some potential consumer confusion thinking that a real lab cultivated brisket is somehow tied in, or we're not being told the truth, it's really plant-based, but in reality it's not?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down really to the reasons in which you became a vegetarian or a vegan to begin with. Was it because of animal cruelty issues? And if so, do you think that as long as an animal didn't have to die to create this, it starts from the biopsy. It starts from a biopsy from a cow, which is how they harvest the cells to begin with. So that steer, cow, or whatever doesn't die in the process. So Katie Cam is the one who is the creator of this company, and that was her argument. Was she became a vegetarian to try and get away from the cruelty to animals, in her opinion, and so therefore this solves that problem for her. I mean, it's strange. I know. I mean, I would try it.
Yeah.
I would try it.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions.
Any kind of brisket, any kind of smoked brisket. I mean, I'm a writer. You give me the opportunity to write about a lab-grown, smoked brisket, I'm going to do it. Sure.
Is it going to be 20 pounds, or is it like a small flat? Or this real-ass size brisket?
I have no idea. I mean, I imagine a lot of them are going to look pretty similar. But yeah, I don't even think they've gotten that far exactly.
When you spoke with them, did you at all do the rosy picture of, hey, the first one's going to be great success, it's going to be widely accepted in the meat-consuming public? Like, can they scale this bitch up and then, like, they're the next Swift or, IBP or whoever, or is that going to take a while?
Yeah, that's going to be their biggest challenge. I mean, the funding in order to get even that first brisket is going to be certainly their first hurdle. But then their next big problem is going to be scaling up. What does that look like? What does a warehouse that's growing lab grown meat look like? Like, what are the downfalls? What's the loss ratio? How much does it cost just to get this equipment on a massive scale?
Yeah.
Nobody knows that right now.
£40 or $40 a pound brisket, I would have to imagine there's going to be a lot of cost in this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This is not going to be cheap. Yeah, I mean the American beef industry has done everything they can to make any cut of beef that comes out of an animal as inexpensive as possible. So I don't think there's any way that in the beginning they're going to be able to compete just based on the scale. I mean, there are 13 million cattle in Texas right now alone. It's 26 million briskets. So that's
Did they give
it's
you
a long
any?
way to go.
Did they give you any kind of a finish line here for the first one at least?
Well, I mean, it's all, like I said, it's all like funding dependent. But they are hoping 2023 is when they're going to be able to take their first bite of that first brisket. So certainly not available on your grocery store shelves at that point.
Daniel Vaughn joining me here on the show, Texas Monthly's barbecue editor. TMBBQ.com is the website, and we're talking about the lab cultivated brisket. So, you're excited to try it. So, I guess more, probably for taste and being able to write about it. I guess we'll see how that goes. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about barbecue and television for the remainder here of the segment. There is a barbecue contest show that is coming up this Friday on Netflix.
The Showdown.
Yeah, the American Barbecue Showdown. I'm going to have Kevin Bledsoe on to close out the show in the next hour. But I assume you'd watch the trailer. So as you watch it, you've seen barbecue on television before. Does it smack you with something original or outside of the box, or a lot of the same?
Well, I've read some reviews of the full episodes. I think the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Jim Auchmuty wrote about it, and he said that the idea behind it is that it's sort of the anti-barbecue pitmasters, in the sense that there's not there's no Myron Mixon attitude. Like, that's basically show's creators have said it was part of their goal. But in the end, like, it's still this structured, timed barbecue competition show where the whole point is to create drama by throwing people just left hooks here and there and saying, all right, well, here's an alligator you got to throw on the pit along with this, or you got 30 minutes left, you got to serve a side with this. Like, it's still not so much about judging people specifically on their skills as a pitmaster. It's about, like, how well can they play this game, and how well can they pivot and sort of use the drama to their advantage rather than to their disadvantage. So I don't know. I loved watching, like, Aaron Franklin's masterclass, right? And that's like he spent 4 hours cooking a brisket, and that is like the absolute opposite end of this, right? It's this, like, sort of really detailed, finite look at how to cook a brisket versus oh my gosh, we taped, like, barbecue sauce bottles on their hands, and now they've got to, like, trim this brisket. Like, I don't learn a whole lot from that. So I'm open-minded. I'm going to watch it for sure.
Yeah.
I just hope that it's more educational than it is just trying to create drama.
All right, that was going to be my next question. The other item that's barbecue related and on Netflix, which I guess to me seems a little odd that Netflix is kind of making this foray into live fire to whatever degree they are. But the Chef's Table.
It's about time.
Is it?
Jeez. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
I have no idea.
Barbecue's hot. How long have you been doing this show? They're way behind.
12 years. What do you mean? You know exactly how long.
There you go.
Chef's Table is out. I mean, that's been around for a while, but now they have dedicated a portion to some live fire folks. And the first one that I had watched after hearing about it and people sending me links, like they were the first one to tell me about it, was the one on Snow's Barbecue, obviously specifically focusing on Tootise Tomantez and her rise into the barbecue superstar and Hall of Famer that she is today. And it was, quite the slow roll. So we're obviously not going to have you go back and give us the way beginnings.
Well, 50 years ago.
Yeah, right. So what I guess nobody was telling me as they were sending me these links was what a substantial and primary part Daniel Vaughn actually played in this Chef's Table episode. I mean, here you are in the darkly, sexily lit corner of a bar, and you're giving us the recap of
That's what I'm trying to recreate right now.
Oh yes, I mean it's pretty good. You're damn sexy. There's no doubt about it. There's no two ways about it.
Well,
so as you're giving some history and some insights and some anecdotes, are you approached like first saying, "Hey, we're thinking about putting this together, and how can you fit in?" Or we want you to be a part of this. How do you think you can help, or how does that whole thing come together on your end?
Well, it didn't start off with them promising me any involvement whatsoever. And I'll tell you, honestly, when the show came out, like I didn't see any previews other than the trailer that everybody else got to see. I didn't see any rough cuts. I had no idea how much or how little I was in it. I know that I sat down for an interview for about 4 hours or so in Lexington at a bar right down the street from Snow's Barbecue. And, I know I answered a lot of questions, but I knew they were also talking to some other folks. And certainly they were going to be talking to Tootsie and the owner, Carrie Bexley, quite a lot. So I didn't know how much I was going to be in it. So that was a little surprising. And it was fun to sit down with my kids who they know Tootsie really well. They've spent some time with her, had dinner with her. Like she's got suckers for them when they show up at Snow's. So they were sitting down, like excited to watch this show about Tootsie, and then my voice came on, and they're like, "Oh, you're in this too." But as far as like when it all began, it went back to one of the producers from the show had contacted me just over Instagram and said, "Hey, I know that you know the people at Snow's. We're kind of having a hard time getting them interested at all in filming the show. So do you like Chef's Table? Do you know Chef's Table?" I said, yeah, I'm a big fan of the show. I've seen quite a few episodes. And they just asked if I would talk to Carrie Bexley and maybe inform him that this is a little bit bigger than your average, 5-minute segment on the Food Network or whatever. And so I talked to him about that, and it took a couple of months, and then he agreed to go ahead and be on the show, and then they asked me to come and sit down for that interview.
Obviously, it's gone very well. Everybody that I've talked to that's seen it loves it on many different facets. It's you. It's the history of Tootsie. It's seeing Snow's. It's the promotion of Snow's. Do you think this is going to have a huge uptick for them, or is it a weird dichotomy of being on Netflix, probably in the worst time to be on Netflix if you're in that kind of business?
Yes, because they're closed.
Yes.
I mean, they are still cooking. They're still cooking twice a week to fulfill all their shipping orders, which they certainly saw an abundance of over the past week. They were sold out for a while over the weekend, but they do cook twice a week. Maybe they're cooking more now. Carrie Bexley shared a photo of all the merchandise that they had packaged up in one day that they were shipping out on Monday, and it was just like boxes and boxes full of envelopes. But they are, I believe they're making some changes at Snow's to try and find a way to be open. They are expanding. So yeah, Carrie hasn't really explained it, but he's been showing photos of slabs being poured and large equipment running around Snow's barbecue. So it looks like what they're trying to do is create a situation where instead of just the sort of cramped dining area that they have now, which doesn't really work so well for social distancing, that they are going to do something to try and be able to reopen. And, they're only open once a week, but,
Yeah.
Carrie's, he's got Tootsie as his right-hand woman there. She's 85 years old. Like, can you imagine his position? Like, do I really want to let all these people into this restaurant who all want to come and take a photo with her or, give her a hug and all that? Like, it's just so dangerous for her right now. So I think they're trying to create a situation where they can be open. But yeah, I know that they're frustrated right now. I know that Miss Tootsie she misses her all of her customers.
Sure.
She misses that all that action on Saturday, all that attention, all those conversations, just being able to see the people who are happy with what she cooks. I mean, the last line in that Netflix show is, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's her saying that she maybe won't see any of these people again, but she's happy that she made them happy. And that's hard to know. That's almost impossible to know when you, put the meat in cryovac and put it in a box and ship it off versus, seeing them eat that and seeing their immediate reactions from it.
So let me ask this question, and I don't mean to take this in a weird, like, dark place or anything, but Tootsie's 85. Newsflash, nobody makes it out of this game alive. How does Snow's change when that happens? Is it something where Snow's might become even more popular because now it's a landmark and some type of place to go pay respect? Or could it go a different way, go completely downhill? How do you foresee that?
Well, I mean, as far as like the amount of business that they would see, I mean, certainly there are people that go there just to see Miss Tootsie. She's become that famous at this point. But the other side of that is, I mean, they've hit legendary status. And once you hit legendary status, like, you are a destination for decades to come. You're in every guidebook, you're in every list. Like, you are going to be in every reference where people are looking to see where to go eat barbecue. So, when Tootsie retires, then, that's, it's still going to be in that legendary status. I mean, Carrie is one heck of a cook. And then, I mean, you saw Clay Cowgill just a little bit in the episode, but I mean, they showed the brisket at Snow's, but they were really careful not to give you the idea or not to say that Tootsie cooks it, because she doesn't. She works all those flat pits, all those direct heat pits, and it's Clay over there who is cooking all those fantastic briskets. I mean, an entire smoker full of them, and he's doing a lot of the pork ribs as well. So. It's not like they're going to lack talent. I mean, they're certainly going to lack a superstar in Miss Tootsie, but the other thing about this time, the fact that she's not working there and not working at the school either, which is her day job, is working maintenance for the school district, is, in many conversations I've had with her, that's what keeps her going. That's what keeps her alive. She thinks that's what helps separate her from a lot of her friends who have passed on, is that they retire and they kind of go to their lazy boy and just kind of wither away. And she hasn't done that. She gets the energy from all this activity and from everything that she does week after week. And not having that is a big challenge for her.
Daniel Vaughn is joining me here on the show. You can find him writing over at Texas Monthly. TMBBQ.com is the website to check him out at. And if you haven't seen Chef's Table, make sure that you hop on Netflix and check that out. Are you in any of the other episodes there for that live fire one, or just the Snows?
Yeah, just Snows. I mean, I love the one on Rodney Scott. Like, he shared a lot about his sort of family strife that he hasn't ever really shared publicly. And, I wrote a book with Sam Jones about Eastern North Carolina whole hog barbecue. And so I know so much about that. So watching Rodney do still the same thing, it's a whole hog over coals, but doing a completely different way, was really interesting and really enlightening. So that was definitely fun to watch.
We'll look for the barbecue game show this coming Friday, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Thanks for coming on, Daniel.
All right. Thanks for having me.
You got it. There he is, Daniel Vaughn, right there and right here on the show. The barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Barbecue. Great insight there, no doubt. If you haven't seen the Chef's Table, it's great. Very compelling. Obviously a lot of history that if you're not overly familiar with who Tootise Tomantez is, a lot of background. The husband and son passing away very quickly between each other. And as Daniel had mentioned, she is a worker. So this has to be causing her the most stress, not being able to get out and work and do the stuff that she has been for so long. Once again, that was Daniel Vaughn. You can find him at tmbbq.com, and we're back to wrap the first hour right after this.
Hi, this is Briskets, the barbecue wizard, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Bye-bye!
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And this portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. You can find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. And some new stuff coming up here before the end of the year, so we'll have Ted Conrad on to talk about that when he is ready. Captain Ron says that the live fire episode from Australia was unreal. Well, I'm through the Tootsie. Now I'm ready for episode 2 tomorrow. Maybe. We'll see what's happening tomorrow. I'm not a big TV guy. Netflix or otherwise. I like music. I'll reveal who I think the best rock and roll drummer is between Neil Peart and John Bonham before this show ends. Why don't you guys weigh in on the instant chat? Neil Peart or John Bonham? We head to the second hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.